March 9th, 2026. On June 23rd, 2025, with almost no coverage in Western media, the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran made a decision that changed the operational geometry of every American aircraft carrier in the Middle East theater more fundamentally than any missile test, any proxy attack, or any diplomatic ultimatum had done in the previous decade. Iran formally deactivated GPS reception nationwide. According to the confirmed analysis published by Defense Security Asia on February 5, 2026, with Iran's own Deputy Communications Minister Ehsan Chitzaz cited on record, the Iranian government blocked American GPS signals across the entire country and completed its transition to the Chinese Beidou satellite navigation system for both military and civilian applications simultaneously. Chitzaz described the transition in his own confirmed words as not a matter of choice, but a necessary step amid persistent signal disruption and digital monopoly concerns. The technical catalyst for that decision was the 12-day Israel-Iran conflict in June of 2025, during which widespread GPS jamming disrupted nearly 1,000 civilian and military vessels, aircraft, and land-based systems across Iran, transforming navigation interference into a nationwide economic and security crisis, confirmed by Defense Security Asia. The United States and Israel had used their electronic warfare advantage to degrade Iranian missile and drone guidance by jamming the GPS signals those weapons relied on for terminal navigation. And Iran's response was not to develop a better GPS jammer. It was to remove GPS from its weapons architecture entirely and replace it with a system that the United States cannot jam because the United States does not control it. That system is Beidou. It is owned by China. It provides centimeter-level military accuracy. It includes a short message service that allows Iranian command nodes to communicate even when local networks are down, confirmed by Special Eurasia on March 3, 2026. And according to the confirmed analysis published by defenseindustry.eu, citing European defense intelligence, China has transmitted data from its fleet of more than 500 military and dual-use satellites directly to Iranian command structures, enabling Tehran to monitor the deployment of United States armed forces in the Indian Ocean, the Gulf of Oman, and the Persian Gulf. That sentence, from a named European defense industry publication with a named framework, is the most precise single-sentence description available anywhere of what the China Link 2 Iranian surveillance actually consists of. It is not a single data cable. It is not a single spy satellite. It is an architecture of interconnected data layers, each one built around a different Chinese technology, each one addressing a different vulnerability that Iran discovered in its own surveillance and targeting capability during the 12-day war. And on March 8th, 2026, 13 hours before this script was researched, the most sophisticated layer of that architecture sailed into view off the coast of Oman in international waters, escorted by two of the most powerful warships in the Chinese Navy, and positioned itself precisely where it could observe every movement of every American carrier, strike group in the theater simultaneously. Start with the Beidou layer, because it is the oldest, the most thoroughly documented, and the one that changes the carrier's tactical calculus most directly. The United States Navy's electronic warfare capability against Iranian missiles has historically rested on a specific vulnerability in those weapons guidance systems, their dependence on GPS signals that the United States controls at the source. The Shahed 136 drone, the Shahab ballistic missile family, the Sumar cruise missile, all of them relied on GPS for navigation and terminal guidance at various points in their flight profiles. When the EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft launches a jamming attack against GPS frequencies in a combat zone, it is exploiting that dependency directly, degrading the navigational accuracy of any weapon that relies on the American satellite constellation for positioning. CNN confirmed in its GPS analysis, published March 6, 2026, citing Michelle Wies-Bachmann, senior maritime intelligence analyst at Windward, that what we are seeing in the Middle East Gulf at the moment is extremely dangerous for maritime navigation because the electronic interference is affecting not just military systems, but every vessel in the theater simultaneously. Windward confirmed on March 7th that more than 1,650 ships in the Middle East Gulf experienced GPS and AIS interference in a single 24-hour period, placing vessels' reported positions on airports, inland locations in Iran and the Gulf states, and over a nuclear power plant, producing track histories that are clearly corrupted by jamming and spoofing. The GPS jamming is indiscriminate at scale. It affects Iranian weapons. It also affects commercial shipping, civilian navigation, and the electronic positioning systems of every vessel in a region that normally carries 20% of the world's oil through a strait 21 nautical miles wide. Beidou eliminates Iran's side of that vulnerability completely. The Beidou 3 satellite constellation, China's third-generation global navigation system, operates on frequencies that the United States military cannot jam without simultaneously jamming its own GPS-dependent systems, because the jamming signal does not discriminate by the nationality of the receiver. More importantly, Beidou 3's military signal tier, which China provides to Iran under the terms of the 25-year Comprehensive Cooperation Agreement signed in March of 2021, offers something that GPS never offered Iran: a short message service integrated into the navigation signal itself. Special Eurasia's confirmed analysis describes this capability with precision. The Beidou 3 short message service allows Iranian command nodes to communicate, even if local networks are down. This means that in a scenario where United States strikes have destroyed Iran's ground-based communications infrastructure, where Starlink terminals have been disabled by the Russian-made Murmansk BN jammers that were confirmed in operation during Epic Fury, and where conventional radio communications are being suppressed by EA-18G Growler electronic warfare, Iranian military commanders can still transmit positional data, targeting updates, and operational orders through the Beidou navigation signal itself, because the data channel is embedded in the navigation system rather than riding on a separate communications frequency that can be independently jammed. The strategic significance of that capability for a carrier targeting scenario is direct and measurable. A carrier strike group's most effective defense against a saturation missile attack is the suppression of the targeting chain that coordinates the attack. If you can destroy the communications link between the targeting sensor and the firing unit, the missile that was aimed at the carrier no longer knows where the carrier is. Beidou does not eliminate that vulnerability entirely, but it inserts a communications redundancy layer into the Iranian targeting chain that operates outside the electromagnetic spectrum that the United States Navy's electronic warfare architecture was designed to suppress. The second layer of the China data link is the satellite layer, and it is where the confirmed data from this week's reporting produces its most alarming picture of the surveillance and architecture that is tracking the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Gerald R. Ford in real time. DefenseIndustry.eu confirmed in its analysis published 2 weeks before this script, citing European Defense Intelligence Monitoring. China's satellite fleet, comprising more than 500 operational military and civilian but dual-use satellites, forms the backbone of an intelligence sharing structure in which data obtained from these platforms is transmitted to Iranian command structures. The same publication confirmed that China previously provided Iran's armed forces with access to Beidou after Tehran abandoned GPS, and that the Type 0555 destroyers and the Liaowang-1 intelligence ship have been deployed to the Gulf of Oman as part of the same strategic support architecture. Modern diplomacy published its most explicit analysis of what Beijing is doing and why on March 9, 2026, the same day this script was researched under the byline of a named strategic analyst, and with the following confirmed assessment, Beijing views this conflict with Iran as a real-world testing ground to evaluate the effectiveness of Western weapons and understand the code of American military superiority. China gathers field data on radar performance and thermal signatures that is crucial to its long-term strategy in other regions, such as Taiwan and the South China Sea. This is the most strategically important single confirmed statement in the entire China link story, because it reveals that the intelligence China is collecting from the Iran theater is not primarily about helping Iran win this war. It is about collecting the real-world performance data that China's People's Liberation Army needs to refine its own carrier-killing capabilities for a potential future conflict over Taiwan or the South China Sea. China has been building its anti-carrier doctrine for 30 years, around the premise that American carrier strike groups are the primary threat to any Chinese military operation against Taiwan. The DF-21D anti-ship ballistic missile, the DF-26 hypersonic anti-ship missile, the CM-302 export supersonic carrier killer that the National confirmed Iran is currently in the process of acquiring. All of those weapons were designed in Chinese laboratories, tested against simulated carrier signatures, and evaluated in war games that model how an American carrier strike group would defend itself against a saturation attack. What China's 500-plus satellite constellation, its Liaowang-1 intelligence ship, its Beidou navigation system feeding data to Iranian targeting platforms, and its confirmed intelligence sharing with Iranian command structures are doing in this conflict is replacing the simulated carrier signature with the real one. Every EA-18G Growler jamming frequency that is documented in this conflict is a data point for China's future electronic warfare planning. Every SM-3 intercept trajectory that the Liaowang-1 sensors record is a data point for China's missile evasion modeling. Every Aegis radar emission profile that China's satellite constellation maps from 500 kilometers above the Arabian Sea is a targeting parameter that goes directly into the People's Liberation Army's carrier strike, planning for the Taiwan scenario. The Iran War is China's largest and most valuable military intelligence collection operation since the end of the Cold War, and it is being conducted openly in international waters, without a single Chinese soldier in combat, at zero cost to Beijing in blood, treasure, or diplomatic standing. Drop a comment right now. Modern diplomacy confirmed today, March 9th, that Beijing views the Iran conflict as a real-world laboratory to test Chinese anti-carrier doctrine for the Taiwan scenario. Defense and security. Asia confirmed that China's 500-plus satellite constellation is transmitting data directly to Iranian command structures. Do you think the United States Navy understands that every Aegis radar mission, every SM-3 intercept trajectory, and every FA-18 Super Hornet launch corridor documented in this war is being collected by Chinese sensors and fed into the People's Liberation Army's Taiwan war planning? And if this analysis is connecting the Beidou layer, the satellite layer, and the Liaowang-1 layer into the most complete confirmed picture of the China surveillance architecture that has been assembled anywhere, hit the like button, because what comes next is the specific confirmed technical capabilities of the Liaowang-1 that were published 13 hours ago, the undersea cable dimension that 17 submarine cables through the Red Sea add to the picture, and the exact question of international law that makes the entire architecture completely untouchable. The third layer, and the one that generated the most significant confirmed reporting in the last 48 hours, is the Liaowang-1. The Defense Security Asia analysis published 13 hours before this script, while cited simultaneously by the Defense News published March 8th. The Middle East Monitor analysis, the Newspoint analysis, and other publications provides the most technically precise confirmed description of this vessel that is publicly available. The Liaowang-1 is a next-generation signals intelligence and space tracking. Available. The Liaowang-1 is a next-generation signals intelligence and space tracking vessel commissioned in 2025 by the People's Liberation Army Navy. It displaces more than 30,000 tons and measures 224 meters in length, confirmed by the Defense News. It is part of the Dongdiao-class Auxiliary General Intelligence ship series, commonly identified as the Type 815 family, designed specifically for electronic intelligence, signals intelligence, and telemetry collection. Its sensor suite includes multiple radar domes, high-gain antennas, and advanced signal processing systems for telemetry data collection, trajectory monitoring, and real-time military command support, confirmed by Gray Dynamics and cited in the Newspoint analysis. The specific operational capability that makes the Liaowang-1 strategically unprecedented in the context of the Iran War is its confirmed surveillance envelope, approximately 6,000 kilometers, and the ability to track 1,200 aircraft in Defense Security Asia. To understand what that number means in the context of the carrier threat, consider the geometry. The Gulf of Oman, where the Liaowang-1 is operating, is approximately 1,000 kilometers from the northern end of the Arabian Sea, where the USS Abraham Lincoln's strike group is positioned. The Strait of Hormuz is less than 200 kilometers from the Liaowang-1's confirmed operating area. The Red Sea, where the USS Gerald R. Ford is operating, is approximately 1,500 kilometers away. All three of those geographic references are inside the 6,000-kilometer surveillance envelope. The Liaowang-1, operating in international waters where no legal authority can compel it to move, can observe every aircraft launch from both American carrier strike groups, map the radar emission profiles of every Aegis, equip destroyer in the theater, track the refueling corridors of every B-2 Spirit bomber flying from Diego Garcia, and record the electronic signatures of every SM-3 and SM-6 interceptor fired against Iranian ballistic missiles simultaneously from a single platform in real time. The Defense Security Asia analysis confirms the dual-use nature of the sensor technology with precision. The technological foundations of these systems originate in China's space and missile programs, where similar tracking technologies are used to monitor orbital satellites and ballistic missile reentry vehicles. A sensor capable of tracking a Chinese satellite in geosynchronous orbit possesses the sensitivity and computational capability required to detect the radar emissions of an American aircraft carrier group. This technological duality is not accidental, but reflects a deliberate design philosophy aimed at maximizing operational flexibility. The Liaowang-1 arrived in the Gulf of Oman under the protection of two warships that prevent any ambiguity about Beijing's willingness to protect the intelligence collection mission. The Type 055 cruiser that escorts the Liaowang-1 is what Middle East Monitor confirmed is rated by naval analysts as the world's most capable surface combatant, equipped with dual-band radar systems similar to the SPY-3 and SPY-4 combination that the United States Navy had intended, but failed to integrate onto the Zumwalt-class destroyer. The Type 052D destroyer provides additional anti-submarine warfare depth. The formation of 30,000-ton intelligence ships, protected by 2 advanced warships with combined air defense and anti-submarine capabilities, is operating within observational range of a live American military campaign. The Middle East Monitor's confirmed analysis, published 3 weeks before this script, stated the strategic conclusion that no other publication had framed with this directness: the introduction of Chinese Type 055 superdestroyers and signals intelligence. Ships into the Gulf of Oman has effectively ended the era of U.S. operational surprise. Iran enjoys a 24-hour, a 7-day God's eye view of U.S. Navy movements. The fourth layer is the one that the conflict itself has revealed rather than confirmed in advance, and it connects the Liaowang-1 and the satellite constellation to the physical infrastructure of global communications in a way that has received almost no coverage in any publication covering the Iran war. Rest of World, the technology and global business publication, confirmed in its analysis published 5 days ago, on March 4th, 2026, that 17 submarine cables passed through the Red Sea alone, carrying the majority of data traffic between Europe, Asia, and Africa. Those 17 cables carry 95% of intercontinental data traffic for the entire region. They pass through the same choke points at the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and the Suez Canal that commercial shipping must navigate. And they are owned by a consortium that includes Amazon, Google, Meta, and Microsoft, confirmed by Steptoe's confirmed legal analysis of the FCC's August 2024 rules package addressing Chinese involvement in submarine cable infrastructure. The CSIS Hidden Reach Initiative, confirmed by Newsweek in its May 2024 investigation, reported directly that the People's Liberation Army and its civilian surrogates are harvesting data from the world's oceans, with the Dayang-Yihao, China's research ship equipped with advanced ocean floor imaging systems and remotely operated underwater vehicles. Capable of mapping submarine terrain and intercepting underwater communications, confirmed to have been surveying the Arabian Sea off the coasts of the Arabian Peninsula, India, and Pakistan since December 19th of 2025, cited in the Newsweek analysis published January 27th, 2026. That is the same Arabian Sea where the USS Abraham Lincoln's carrier strike group was operating when the Dayang-Yihao confirmed survey began. The Chinese cables company Shanghai-based Submarine Systems, known as SBSS, which is part of a 3-company consortium conducting cable maintenance around Asia, has had its ships confirmed by ship tracking analysts cited in Newsweek to periodically switch off their automatic identification system transponders, the location beacons that United Nations maritime safety regulations require ships to use, causing them to go undetected for days at a time while at sea in the vicinity of cables that might have strategic significance. The Newsweek investigation confirmed that Biden administration officials warned Silicon Valley companies, including Meta and Google, about the potential threat from Chinese cable repair ships, and that Chinese firms are required by law to hand over data to the Chinese Communist Party government upon request. The legal framework governing what happens to data that passes through submarine cables maintained or surveilled by Chinese-linked entities is the same framework that governs what the Liaowang-1 does with the electronic intelligence it collects in international waters. There is no legal prohibition. The Washington Times confirmed 3 days ago, citing Rear Admiral Mike Brooks' congressional testimony to the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission, that China is building what Admiral Seif described as an underwater Great Wall of fixed and mobile sensors, uncrewed systems, and data fusion designed to detect and track submarines in strategic locales, and that the likely effect is not transparency of the undersea environment, but a narrowing of the stealth margin, particularly near choke points, operating areas, and approaches that matter most in crisis and conflict. Those choke points include the Strait of Hormuz. Those operating areas include the Arabian Sea. Those approaches include every route by which an American carrier strike group could enter or exit the Persian Gulf. Watch 3 confirmed publicly trackable indicators in the coming 15 days that will tell you whether the China data link to Iranian carrier surveillance is producing any American governmental response at the legal, diplomatic, or operational level. The first indicator is whether the United States government issues any formal diplomatic communication to Beijing regarding the Liaowang-1's confirmed presence in the Gulf of Oman during active combat operations involving American military personnel. The Liaowang-1 is operating in international waters. It has committed no violation of any confirmed international legal standard, but the combination of its confirmed 6,000-kilometer surveillance envelope, its confirmed ability to track 1,200 aircraft and missiles simultaneously, and its confirmed arrival in the theater as American strikes on Iran were entering their 9th day creates a diplomatic question that no American official has answered publicly as of this script's recording date. If the State Department issues any named official statement referencing the Liaowang-1 by name, It will be the first formal American acknowledgement of the operational intelligence threat that China's naval presence in the Gulf of Oman represents in real-time targeting terms. The second indicator is whether Windward Maritime's confirmed GPS jamming data, which showed 1,650 ships affected on March 7th, continues to increase in scale through the week of March 9th. The jamming growth trend is confirmed by Windward's own daily intelligence reporting. 1,100 ships affected in the first 24 hours of Epic Fury, 1,650 by March 7th, a 55% increase in a single week. If the jamming scales further, the combined effect of Beidou-equipped Iranian weapons, flying guidance profiles that American jamming cannot degrade, and GPS jammed, commercial shipping creating navigational chaos that suppresses military operations, simultaneously becomes the most operationally significant electronic warfare development in any conflict since the Second World War. And the third indicator is what China does with the intelligence the Liaowang-1 collects after the Iran war ends. Modern. Diplomacy confirmed today, March 9th, that China is using this conflict as a laboratory to collect real-world data on American carrier defense performance, Aegis radar signatures, SM-3 intercept trajectories, and FA-18 launch corridor timing. The question that indicator asks is not about this war, it is about the next one. The People's Liberation Army's carrier-killing doctrine has been designed around simulated performance data. What China is collecting in the Gulf of Oman right now is the real performance data that will replace those simulations. If any Chinese defense publication, any PLA-affiliated research institution, or any named Chinese military analyst publishes any analysis in the coming months that describes updated assessments of American carrier vulnerability based on observations from the Iran conflict, that publication will be the confirmed record of what the Liaowang-1's 6,000-kilometer sensor bubble, operating in international waters 11 kilometers off Oman's coast, learned from watching the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Gerald R. Ford conduct combat. Operations in one of the most heavily surveilled military theaters in American naval history. Iran abandoned GPS on June 23, 2025. It replaced it with Beidou, centimeter-level military accuracy, resistant to American jamming, with a short message service that keeps Iranian command nodes communicating when everything else is dark. China's 500-plus satellite constellation has been transmitting positional data on American carrier movements to Iranian command structures since before the war began. The Liaowang-1 arrived in the Gulf of Oman on or before March 8th, within its 6,000-kilometer sensor bubble protected by the world's most capable surface. Combatants, tracking 1,200 aircraft and missiles simultaneously in complete legal impunity under the law of the sea, and 17 submarine cables carrying 95% of the region's intercontinental data traffic run through the same choke points where Chinese-linked cable maintenance ships have been confirmed to periodically go dark. The China data link is not a secret weapon. It is a documented architecture assembled in public, confirmed by named publications, operating under international law, and untouchable by any military action that does not risk a direct confrontation with the world's second-largest economy and its most capable navy. That is why it is more strategically significant than any missile Iran has fired in this conflict. The missiles can be intercepted. The data architecture cannot.